You're watching CCN, Clarksville Community Network, produced by Goodwin Productions. Powered by CDE Lightband.
Hello, I'm Charlie Koon, the Director of Corporate and Military Business Development at F&M Bank in Clarksville, Tennessee. Our topic today is effectively shifting your strategies with unplanned change. And I can't think of a better person to have this conversation with than our guest today, who's got tons of experience in the Army. And I want to welcome Col John Cogbill, the Deputy Commander of Operations at the 101st Airborne Division Air Assault at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Welcome, John. Good to see you.
Appreciate it. Good to be here.
Well, I just stepped right in, kind of gave a little introduction of your current job, but could you give us a little background on what you've done in the Army and how you've gotten to be in the position you're in?
Sure, absolutely. Well, first of all, tell me a little bit about my family. I married my high school sweetheart out of Richmond, Virginia. We've got 3 children. And when I left Richmond, I went to West Point, United States Military Academy, where I was thoroughly indoctrinated in being prepared for change. You never know what's going to happen during your cadet basic training. You pretty much turn over control of your life to a squad leader or a platoon leader. And then on top of that, in order to prepare you for a lifetime of service in the military, they make you move every semester and get a new roommate. So you're constantly having to learn new people, pick up your stuff and move it from point A to point B in an unpredictable fashion, which has trained me for this job now, as I just received orders to move to Fort Bragg, North Carolina next month on short order. So it makes you, builds in some agility there. But so after commissioning as an infantry officer from West Point, I went to Fort Bragg, North Carolina in the 82nd Airborne Division as a paratrooper, and have spent a lot of time jumping out of airplanes in both conventional and special operations units, mostly with the Ranger Regiment. It's been kind of a different career path than others. I've spent time in heavy units with tanks and Bradleys, airborne units, Ranger units, and then even had the opportunity to go teach at West Point. Went back to teach economics. I pretty much taught at the intro level, and after teaching at West Point, I went on. I've commanded at the battalion level, the brigade level, most recently here with 3rd Brigade Combat Team, the Rock Sons, and the 101st. Done some Chief of Staff work at the Joint Special Operations Command. Back here as this Deputy Division Commander, and then heading back to Fort Bragg to be a Chief of Staff at the Corps level. So I am a jack of all trades and a master of none, and I think that's kind of the way the Army tries to prepare you. At least in the officer corps, the ultimate destination and career progression is a general officer, which means they're trying to produce generalists that are capable of dealing with a lot of different things. Cross-functional type leader capable of building teams and whatnot, versus a specialist. And so I think the Army does prepare you, and it's because of the types of situation that we may find ourselves in while serving in the military, both in peacetime and combat.
Oh yeah, and one question. You've had so many different jobs in your progression. Is there one that you've liked more or enjoyed more? I know they're all different and they might be hard to compare, but is there one that stands out for you?
Well, being Rock 6, commanding the Rock Sons was really, first of all, I never thought I'd make it that far. My goal was to be a battalion commander, so to be able to command a brigade combat team, 5,000 some soldiers in the 101st Airborne Division with this great legacy of heroism that we have was truly an honor. The reason I'm still in the Army 27 years later is because every job that I've had, I've found some sort of personal, both personally and professionally rewarding that keeps me coming back for more. My commitment to West Point was 5 years. That's all I ever intended to do. And at every decision point, what they were offering was better than anything else that I wanted to do. I mean, I've had the opportunity to go to graduate school, and it's just been exciting. Sometimes you don't go where you want to go, you go where the Army needs you, and you realize that can be just as, if not more rewarding, because you feel like you're contributing to that unit and making them, leaving it better than you found it.
Yeah. Well, our topic today is about unplanned change. How successful have you been in predicting change?
Well, let me tell you how the Army's record of success is. Former Secretary of Defense Robert Gates, liked to say that since the Vietnam era, we have a perfect record in predicting the next conflict, which means we've gotten it wrong every single time. And H.R. McMaster said something similar. He said, we get it 0% right 100% of the time. And so that's just the nature of conflict, I think. None of us have a crystal ball. And I think that's just because, the world is complex. And, when we, from the national security perspective, we know that nations act in their own self-interest. But nations are led by human beings who can be unpredictable. Some leaders are rational, some are irrational. It's full of volatility, unpredictability, complexity, and ambiguity. And those are kind of the waters that we wade into to try and be prepared for whatever happens next.
Yeah, and that was kind of part of my next question is, why are we so bad at predicting change?
Yeah, well, it's not for lack of trying. If you look at the whole of government approach to being able to, we want predictability and we want stability as a nation. And we have this huge intelligence enterprise, 17 different organizations in the government alone, over 100,000 employees, with a budget bigger than the GDP of most, developed nations, just to try and know what's going to happen in the future and understand the world around us. Yet we still don't get it right all the time. In fact, we mostly miss the mark. And that's just on the government side. It's extremely challenging. And I've just come to the realization, I think the military has, is we have to train leaders to be able to deal with that complexity in the gray area and be agile and adaptive to whatever it is, because you don't get to pick and choose. If you don't like the situation, we can't say we're going to pass on this conflict and we're going to just wait until something easier comes along. You got to do, when the nation calls, we have to be prepared to answer. And that's, since World War II, the 101st has a long history of doing just that. And we will continue to do that into the future.
How has the Army helped you lead during uncertainty, and how do you think that could apply to just regular business?
Well, I think, looking at history and looking at, what has made successful field marshals or generals or, throughout the years, going all the way back to the Napoleonic Wars, with all of Europe uniting against Napoleon, trying to move large land armies, trying to communicate orders and intent to soldiers to get to the front lines and do it in a timely manner so that it's still valuable by the time it reaches, your intended target. We've learned that you can't control everything at the top. And so you've got to power down to the people in your formations, whether that's an Army division or whether that's a major bank. And different sizes and scales, but the bottom line is how do you make people feel like they understand your intent and they can move out and execute those orders? And that's something that, again, it's this philosophy, this mission command philosophy is what the Army has called it. And it goes all the way back to the Napoleonic Wars and what the Prussian generals, Clausewitz, von Moltke, as they learned in fighting Napoleon when he was initially so successful, is that you really do have to power down. And there was a technique called Auftragtaktik, which is basically issuing mission orders. Instead of me telling you exactly what you need to do on a day-to-day basis, like I don't know what kind of ambiguity you're going to have to deal with in the course of your duties on any given day, week, or month. But if we don't talk to each other, you need to understand what the boss's intent is and feel empowered to be able to react to that situation versus freezing and then having to go back to their boss to ask permission or be told what to do. And that's what we call mission orders. So you give somebody a task and a purpose. Right? I need you to do X, and the purpose is this is why I need you to do it. Yeah. So that if for some reason it doesn't go as planned, you understand kind of the end state, and that's how we try to communicate orders in the military.
I'm sure during your career as a leader, you've had some people that may not be able to understand the order. Mm-hmm. So how, if you find somebody that doesn't understand it, how as a leader can you impress upon them what it means? How can you just get them on your team? Sure.
As a leader, it's focusing on the commander's intent, first of all, which is telling somebody the purpose up front. This is why I need you to do what I'm about to ask you to do. And then you tell them what those key tasks are, okay? I need you to do 3 to 5 things. I'm not going to give you a laundry list of 100 things because it's going to overwhelm you, all right? But these are the 3 to 5 most important things that you need to accomplish. And then really, I think the key to a good commander's intent is telling them the end state. So when the sun comes up tomorrow morning, let's think back to the time we spent together down at the Joint Readiness Training Center, and we were watching that brigade combat team trying to defend that piece of key terrain as the enemy forces were moving. It's a night battle and it's chaotic and it's happening at the squad and platoon level. But those commanders told them at the end of the day, you need to own this piece of terrain. Okay, there's going to be a lot. I need you to block them here. I need you to delay them here. I need you to attrit them here. All of that's fine and dandy, but hey, when it all goes out the window, because no plan survives the first contact, I need you in control of this piece of terrain and ready to move to the next objective. And so that's the commander's intent piece. And then the definition of mission command, I think, is worth saying. I'm not a big. I don't typically memorize Army doctrine because you don't have to, because it's all written down there and you can reference it anytime you need. But I think this is fundamental to everything that we do, and it's defined as the exercise of authority and direction by commanders, fill in the blank, leaders, president, the exercise of authority and direction by commanders using mission orders, task and purpose, to enable disciplined initiative within the commander's intent. In order to empower agile and adaptive leaders in the conduct of unified land operations. So that's a lot of military mumbo jumbo. But if you kind of walk that back and kind of unpack it a little bit, it's the key words there are the mission orders that we talked about, task and a purpose, and then further refined with that commander's intent, and then empowering discipline initiative, which is something that a lot of people are not comfortable with. The Army in World War II looks very different than it does now in terms of their willingness to allow subordinate commanders to kind of choose their own adventure. What are those key products that you need to be able to go out and do your job and understand the intent? So you're enabling that discipline initiative, but it's within the intent. When you do that, you incur a little bit of risk, and that's where the commander's role is, or the president, or the chapter or director at whatever level. You own that risk, but where there's risk, there's reward too. Yeah. And then the key, I think, is that empowering those agile and adaptive leaders to do what they need to do. Meaning agile and adaptive, resilient, their mind is not going to get blown the first time they get punched in the face, right? Yeah. And they're going to be able to overcome and find a way to get to yes, find a way to get to the top of that hill and complete the mission, no matter what the conditions are. So I think those are, I really embrace that as a commander. I think it's the best one single definition the Army's ever written, because it really defines the type of organization that you want to lead, that you want to be a part of, where people feel empowered and they know what needs to be done regardless of the situations. And we know that uncertainty is everywhere.
Yeah, I'm fortunate enough to come out to Fort Campbell a lot, and it's really a blessing to me because I get to learn from you guys just watching. And the one thing that I see out there is teamwork. You guys are always building teams. So why are you so good at that?
Well, I think it's out of necessity. So, combat is a team sport. It's not John Rambo out there, taking on the Russians by himself. It's a team sport. That number one principle of this entire philosophy is building cohesive teams. Because, if you look throughout the history of warfare, although every conflict is different, and we never know where we're going to go or who we're going to be fighting against or in what environment, well, you do better when you have somebody to share it with, right? And so that's why we really focus on the importance of teamwork. Whether it's at the fire team level, which is, a young sergeant with, 4 soldiers in that fire team, whether it's a squad, which is a squad leader with 2 fire teams, a platoon with, 3 to 4 squads, or a company with 3 to 4 platoons. So it just, at echelon, we have to build these teams so that people feel, a sense of belonging to both the squad, to the platoon, to the company, to the battalion, and they know where they fit in. And in your best units, those will be interchangeable. So a squad, a member of a squad here can pick up and if necessary, because sometimes you have losses in combat and you have to be able to plug and play people into different units, but they can plug in easily because you have that shared identity and that understanding of being a member of the same team. Yeah. So that's really important.
Well, and just a little side note on that, in the world of workforce development and recruitment, one thing that I see with soldiers as they exit the military is sometimes they think they don't have leadership experience, but they really do, because as you said, at company and brigade levels, they're leading people and they're building teams. So I think that's really important when banks in particular are looking for leaders and people that can come in and adapt to their environment. There are leaders out there looking for work, so I think military folks are a good resource for that.
I agree. So one of my mentors and really living heroes is a guy named General Joe Votel, who was my battalion commander in 1st Ranger Battalion back in 1998 down in Savannah, Georgia. That's when he was a lieutenant colonel. He left the Army as a 4-star general. He commanded both Central Command and the Special Operations Command. And so now he's since retired and makes a good living going around talking to people about leading, and specifically leading in uncertainty. And one of the things he talks about is just the importance of the role of the leader in uncertainty and establishing those foundational requirements and really doing the things that only you can do. So, a good leader gets things done. A great leader focuses on the things that only he or she can do and allows your subordinates or the people in the organization to do what it is that they do best. And so for him, though, the leader's job in building that climate is having the foundational requirements of trust, having a healthy culture, empowering your people, establishing good, solid communications, and then most importantly, having a feedback mechanism so that, while you may think you're doing a perfect job as a leader, but you have to be open, whether that's an open door, literally, or that's just having the, people, as you start to communicate, General Winsky can't get feedback from all 26,000 active duty soldiers on Fort Campbell, but he's got different forums where he can sense and take that input and that feedback. So, my own personal experience commanding the Rakkasans is, one of the first things you do, and one of the things they teach you at the pre-command course is you need to put out a command philosophy. And I've seen, over 27 years, I've seen a lot of different command philosophies, and most of them were mildly interesting, and I never made it to the end of them because they were diatribes. They were, a long laundry list of these are the things I like, and things I don't like, do and don't do. I couldn't come up with a philosophy better than this philosophy of mission command because I just fully subscribe to it. I think that's that's what the difference between good and great organizations, winning and failing organizations is being able to execute mission command. But beyond that, I wanted to establish priorities, and so I wanted to build a culture of innovation inside of the brigade, which was not typical for something that you'd find in a military organization, especially a brigade combat team, to be talking about innovation. But it's all around us, and I really got switched onto it when I was out in Palo Alto as a military fellow at Stanford, and you're sitting there in Silicon Valley and seeing all the great ideas and brilliant people and how they're innovating, and realize that, hey, as a military, we need to do the same. And what I like about the culture of innovation is that it's not just about modernizing or coming up with a better weapon, or saving money, but it's about empowering the people in your organization and giving them a voice, letting the specialist that is a generator mechanic in the motor pool find a better way to do his or her job and to save time and to save money, and then giving them an outlet to be able to express their ideas, and then reward them for that, and then share those ideas widely across the formation. So that's something that we've done in the brigade. We're doing it in the division. We're doing it in the 18th Airborne Corps, and the whole Army now is moving out on this. And I didn't by any means start that, but I saw it coming, and I liked it because I thought it meshed so nicely with this philosophy. In my mind, I'm picturing, you're familiar with the Torii, right? That the Rakkasans have from the history of occupying Japan post World War II. And it's the Shinto shrine that kind of marks sacred territory. So our Torii, I took a Torii and I put my command philosophy on basically the pieces of the Torii. So that the top of it was mission command in a culture of innovation, and the two pillars were readiness and resilience, because I thought those are really, readiness. Obviously, we have to be ready because to do the job that we're asked to do, and you got to be resilient because life is, the world is complex and ambiguous, and you don't know what's going to happen next. So you got to be able to adapt and overcome. But getting back to the teamwork piece, is the foundation of that entire philosophy is teamwork, which is built on trust. And if you don't have that, then you have nothing. Trust comes from open communication, the willingness to take feedback, shared hardship, winning together, losing together, taking risks together, and then being okay to fail sometimes. Yeah. And feeling safe that if you do fail, it's not the end of your career. You took a risk, it was a calculated risk, it was disciplined. It doesn't always work out, but again, where there's risk, there's reward. And so as a leader, that was always the type of climate I was trying to build inside the organization.
And you talked about the size of, or the number of troops at Fort Campbell, and as you spoke about your leadership of the Roxons, there was between 4,000 and 5,000 soldiers that you commanded at that time. With your new job, which just came up, and you're adapting to that unplanned change, what does that structure look like, and how will your leadership characteristics help you with that job?
Well, it's the Army's kind of the same. It gets scaled at each level. So whereas I'm the deputy commander in a division of 20,000 soldiers, 26,000 at the installation. At 18th Airborne Corps at Fort Bragg, you've got 4 divisions. So just multiply by 4. At the end of the day, you still have 4 to 6 subordinate organizations plus some other smaller ones that you're dealing with. So your span of control is about the same, and the leadership principles remain the same. Again, General Carrilla, the 18th Airborne Corps commander, can't tell every division commander and every brigade commander within the division or within their division what they need to do on a daily basis, but he needs to put out priorities. He needs to communicate a vision, commander's intent, and then be able to adjust those priorities. We didn't see COVID coming, okay? Did you? I don't think so. I don't think any of us did. So we had this great training plan laid out last year. Rotations down to Fort Polk, Louisiana for all this stuff was interrupted. So we started wearing masks. We started distancing. We got creative. We were teleworking. We were, the same things that you're doing in the banking world, we were doing in the military. But at some point, we knew we had to come together. So we started, before you and I went down to Fort Polk together, 100% testing, COVID testing. Right. You're in the bubble. When you're in the bubble, you don't leave the bubble. And we figured out how to do it. And we, since then, we've had 2 major training rotations. The 2nd Brigade was the first combat training center rotation at Fort Polk since COVID, and we have not stopped. We're continuing to train. We've got soldiers out there right now out on the ranges doing live fires, interacting with each other in a safe way. We're doing physical fitness every day, and that's just something that we've had to figure out.
And that was an amazing experience, and watching those young men and women leading their troops in the dark of night. I mean, it was pretty interesting. And when there was a breach, I believe there was a breach by the creek or somewhere, and how they had to handle that because no plan's perfect.
Yeah, and they were out of contact with their, they have radios, and the radios don't always work. It's the middle of the night. You're looking through your night vision goggles. Something blows up into your front. You may have, the enemy is now in your rear area. You're cut off from your higher headquarters. What are you going to do? It's up to that junior leader. So this philosophy that I'm talking about at the commander level, this applies at every echelon, and it's not just the officer ranks, it's our non-commissioned officers, it's our junior officers, and it's our soldiers. So, everyone's got a role, everyone's got a responsibility. Our non-commissioned officers, we have them, an NCO counterpart at every level of command, and then in the ranks, we've got young leaders that are leading those teams and those squads, and platoon sergeants and first sergeants, and they are, they're taking those priorities, they understand that commander's intent, and they are communicating that inside the formation. Our non-commissioned officers and our warrant officers are the secret sauce that makes the United States Army better than any other army in the world. And I've seen, and I've trained with armies across, all of our partners all over the world, and that's the one thing they always come up and they say, how is it that you have, how are your NCOs so empowered and so proactive and so capable? And it's just something that we're very proud of, through their military education, their role models, and them fully embracing that responsibility to, one, understand the commander's intent, but 2, be able to train those soldiers to be ready to do whatever it is, because again, you're training them to be able to fight anywhere under any type of conditions, which is it's a tall order.
I guarantee it is. I know that you're a big reader, and you look at past events to help you with the future. Why do you recommend doing that? How does that help you?
I'm not sure I'm a big reader, but I've got some big books sitting on my nightstand that I've just been chopping away at little by little. At West Point, they impress upon you the importance of military history. It's a very historic place, and so many of our generals that have gone on to lead our country, lead our Army and our country as presidents have passed through there. But General Mattis, our former Secretary of Defense, Jim Mattis, is a big reader. They call him the warrior monk, probably the best read officer in the Department of Defense. But someone asked him this question. He sent a message to his subordinates who were basically telling them, hey, that's great that you're so enamored with reading, but we are just too busy. We're down here on the front lines. We're leading soldiers. We're deploying. We're doing this. We're going to war. We don't have time to read. And his thought was, well, if you don't read, the only way to learn is through personal experience and to learn it firsthand, which can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing, especially in combat. He said, or you can learn from other people's experiences by reading. Because he said there are not many tactical problems that you're going to face that somebody hasn't already faced in combat. So why not learn from somebody else's mistakes when the stakes are so high, when you're talking about the loss of human life if you get it wrong, the loss of your soldiers, and that's a huge responsibility as a leader. So it's important to to stay abreast of not only what's happened in the past, but be reading things about the future. I'm reading some really interesting books right now about artificial intelligence and machine learning and innovation and autonomous systems and what it is that our competitors, because as we go from this last 19 to 20 years of counterinsurgency, counter VEO, counter violent extremist organizations like Al Qaeda and ISIS, that's still there, but we're drawing down. But really, as a military, we're focusing on large-scale combat operations against near, peer, or peer competitors, a rising China, a Russia, whatever it is, that's someone who's on more of a level footing when it comes to military capabilities. And so you got to know what's out there, and you got to know what you're up against, which is part of the reason of putting that emphasis on innovation and across the Army, across the DoD. Very interested in innovating and doing it from the grassroots level and making us better and stronger. And being able to leverage some of these new technologies, because if we don't, and if we just focus on the way we've always done things, and we don't leverage the power of quantum computing and nanoscience and bioscience, and start learning how to code and create algorithms that will give us the ability to have artificial intelligence in our kill chain, when we're talking about being able to acquire, observe, orient, and detect or acquire a weapon, that because of the ability to compute has increased exponentially so quickly, if you're not using those tools, by the time something happens, you won't be able to react in a timely manner. And so I think that's another way that we hedge against the uncertainty, is we continue to develop our ability to do data analytics and to be a little bit more predictive, suck all those history books into a database and somehow write an algorithm that's going to tell us optimal outcomes, and how do we optimize use of force, how do we achieve certain optimal outcomes in some really weird conditions, and we can do that. We can put artificial intelligence into our wargaming. I think we're all learning together, but we don't have the luxury of sitting back and letting someone else get ahead of us, because at the rate of change is so fast right now that it's hard to catch up if you're not already in the game.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I love talking to you about this stuff, and we could talk forever because I've got a million questions. But I would end with this: is there anything that you feel like you'd like to share with us before we close?
Oh, first of all, I appreciate the opportunity. I never pass on an opportunity to sit down and shoot the bull with Charlie Koon. So anywhere, any place, even if it's in front of these cameras and these harsh lights here. But no, I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate what you do for our military community, first of all. We feel very well supported by the people of Tennessee and Kentucky. We straddle the border, as you know. And it's one of the blessings of being stationed at Fort Campbell, is just to have this wonderful community here that's always, has been there since we've been here, to support the soldiers, support the families, and it means a lot to us. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk about leadership, because I'm passionate about it, and it's the reason it's the reason I'm still wearing this uniform, and I'm not never tried to be a banker or a lawyer. They're all wonderful professions out there, and things that at some point I'm going to hang this thing up and I'm going to go try something else on for size. But I really do love leading soldiers, and I think there's some principles there that it's a super challenging mission, because the world is complex, and we have to be ready to do whatever our nation asks us to do at any time. And if I can share some of those leadership principles and with anybody that are friends out in the outside the gates of Fort Campbell, then we're happy to do it.
Well, we appreciate you being here and taking time. So Thanks for being here.
Thanks a lot, Charlie. Air salt.
Air salt.
For current and exclusive content, subscribe to CDE Lightband, connecting you at the speed of light.